Hello and welcome to the PPW Pod, bringing you news, views and interviews from the world of real estate marketplaces and PropTech. My name is Edmund Keith. I'm the editor of Online Marketplaces. Joining me for today's Roundup episode, we have our news editor, Harvey Hancock. How are you doing?
Very good, thank you, Ed. Great to be back for another year of podcasting.
And our chairman, Online Marketplaces chairman, Simon Beike. How are you doing?
Very well. At least I wasn't described as indefatigable. So it's good to be having short words. It's great. Fantastic. It's great to see you guys here in early January.
We are back for season 2. As you said, it's early January. We've had a bit of a winter break. This year, 2025, the idea is to go a bit deeper. We have some excellent content coming up. We also have some great guests coming up. And this year, we have a sponsor for the podcast. Simon, why don't you tell us a bit about our sponsor?
Yeah, sure. Big thanks to the guys at PropTech for sponsoring our podcast. For those who don't know, PropTech has a range of plug and play technologies that get better user engagement around each of a website's listings, whether you're a property portal or even a small agent website. What they do is they allow the consumer or the visitor to go to a listing, to then see that listing, whether it's a living room, a dining room, bedroom, but in a different way. Everything from you can have a different look and feel, make it a Scandinavian look or an industrial look, all right through to putting your own furniture into that listing through their tools. So if anyone's interested in this technology, and Scout24 uses it in Germany, the NAR is using it with all their members. It's great technology. So my big recommendation is reach out to the guys at PropTech. That's PropTex.com. Reach out to them, say you heard about it on the podcast, and they will look up.
Okay, on today's episode, we'll be talking about Propertyguru, we'll be talking about KE Holdings, we'll be talking briefly about pre-market listings and something called homepage homogenization. We'll get to all of that, I promise, very quickly though, because it's the start of a new season. There's a bit of housekeeping. Thank you to everybody quickly who replied to Harvey's questionnaire. It's all very useful. We learn from it. And there's also PropTech and Portal Watch Bangkok. Simon, you've got 15 seconds before we get into it to tell people why they should be attending PropTech and Portal Watch in Bangkok.
Okay, PPW Bangkok, PropTech and Portal Watch Bangkok is happening on the 12th and 13th of March. It brings together around 200 C-level leaders from around the world to discuss all the key issues in the PropTech industry and also the property portal industries. And the real focus at the moment is about AI and how AI is really changing the way business is done. We've got a bunch of very good speakers lined up. We're already getting close to the 100 registrations. It is going to be a fantastic conference. We're looking forward to seeing everyone there. If you're interested, go to www.ppwapac25.com. That's www.ppwapac25.com.
Okay, thank you. Slightly longer than 15 seconds, but I'll let you get away with it. Okay, let's get into the meat of today's Roundup session. First story on the docket, Propertyguru CEO Harvey Krishnan stepped down as EQT appoints a new board. Harvey, you covered this one. Why don't you tell us a few of the details?
Yeah, sure. So big congratulations to Louis Eng, who is going to be the new CEO at Propertyguru Group. The business has been taken private after the deal, I think it was about $1 billion worth, finalized in December 24. EQT are the new owners, and they've been pretty quick to find their new man. Eng is a previous Propertyguru employee. I can't remember off the top of my head what role he had, some kind of managing director, but he's the main man now. And as always, when a CEO comes in, a CEO goes out. And Harvey Krishnan, who has been at the company since 2016, off the top of my head, about 10 years at the helm. Some ups and downs in his tenure, but alas, it is now over, Ed. So that's the very basics. But happy to answer any more questions you've got.
Thanks. Simon, did you see this coming? I mean, when a new company comes in and wants to take it private, you imagine they're going to bring in their own people, right?
Well, I think the way at the macro level, and we're clearly going to take any personalities and such out of the equation. If you look at Propertyguru, they were a private company. They have been trying for a very long time to find a way to listing. They ended up listing on, I think it was the NASDAQ, via a SPAC. Now, the problem with all these SPAC listings, and as I was speaking to a lawyer a couple of days ago in the US, they said they're going to write books about this, about SPACs and how, fundamentally they were a fad that came and went. And the problem for PropTech is they listed at $10 because they always start at $10 and rapidly went to about $2 something, right? They lost a lot of value in that process as, the people who had been shareholders in a private company and thus illiquid became shareholders in a public company and thus liquid. And they were clearly going to exit at the first opportunity so that they could then, convert their shares into cash. The other thing that happened is that when you do a SPAC, you have to put a prospectus to the market with forecasts. Hey, this is how we're going to go. And they missed them. They just missed the forecast. And when you miss the forecast, the market doesn't like it. So it becomes this cyclic spiral down. And as you spiral down as a CEO, you're now spending your whole time dealing with external headaches. And EQT's come along. They offered a sizable premium to the listed price. I can't remember all the details. I think it was around $2 something, and they offered $4. Those numbers sort of sit in my head. I'd have to check them again.
Yeah, we've covered this before. All of the kind of numbers involved in this are all in an article on online marketplaces if someone wants to go and look it up.
Yeah, so they paid a good premium. They've taken control. They're clearly going to say, well, we need to change what we're doing. We can't keep doing the same as we did before. And they, usually what happens in those, they start making changes internally, usually starting with the CEO and then working their way through various roles in the business as the new CEO comes on board and then decides he wants to make some changes. So this is inevitable. And there might be some more departures from the business.
So apart from personnel, do we see EQT making other changes? Do we think they're going to maybe divest from certain parts of the business? We already saw Propertyguru. They took people by surprise. They took me by surprise by pulling out of Indonesia and shuttering their fast key product for developers. Do you think we'll see maybe some other divestments?
Maybe divestments or maybe some acquisitions, but in their core markets. So where they double down on getting better and better in those markets where they've got strength, maybe going deeper in the Singaporean market, deeper in the Malaysian markets, and so on. They have already, rolled up the iProperty group years ago. Funny story around that. We had our first when I was chairman of iProperty back in 2011, maybe. I've lost stories. I had less grey hair. We tried to merge with them because we could see it made sense. That fell apart, but eventually it did happen. And so the question, I think, if I was in EQT's shoes, I've got to get substantial growth. They've spent whatever they've spent on the product, but they don't want to get a 10% return or 20% return. They want to double their money, if not triple their money. And that won't just be organic growth. It has to be done through some sort of acquisitive growth in that market. And then they'll probably relist it closer to home on the Singaporean Stock Exchange or something that makes more sense.
Okay. So this is a wait and see. We'll wait and see. We'll keep abreast of everything that's happening. And you can obviously read about anything that EQT and Propertyguru do on the pages of online marketplaces. Next on the docket, KE Holdings, aka Beike, continues purchasing land with 95 million Shanghai plots snapped up. Harvey, tell us about this one.
Yeah, so this sort of came out of the woodwork for me. I wasn't expecting to read that Portal had spent the best part of $100 million on a plot of land. And I certainly wasn't expecting it to be part of a bigger strategy. This clearly is something that KE Holdings has, up its sleeve at the moment. They've already bought quite a few bits of land in the past 6 months. I was reading earlier in the week that they failed in some attempts to grab some land to build developments on at the start of 2024. So this looks to be a pretty strategic move by KE Holdings. I'll throw it back over to you, Ed, you know more than me. Is this the first time that a portal has actually bought land to develop property and then list and sell it, or is this something that has actually been done before?
It has been done before. So just to give some people context to KE Holdings, we say KE Holdings, we could be saying Beike, one of the biggest real estate portal operators in the world. It operates one of the biggest, not only portals, but also brokerages in China, and effectively controls, let's say, a lot of how agents in China work. So it's a brokerage, it's a portal operator or marketplace operator. It's also a tech company. It has like a kind of a rival to, let's say, Matterport. And now it's a developer as well on top of all of that. So it's a very interesting company trying to do a lot of things. In answer to your question, yes, there is, to my knowledge, and maybe Simon can correct me. I think the only other real estate portal that has gone into being a developer in its own right is Zameen in Pakistan, which now has Zameen Developments, which is, it's a property developer. I imagine that the reason that they went into being a developer from a real estate portal is because they just got a whole load of the data that they would need to do it well, had a load of contacts, and it just kind of made sense in that market where most of the revenue that you can get is from transactions. Does that sound about right?
Yes, yeah. I mean, if you think about it in established markets, so I think of the US or Europe or whatever, a portal going to become a developer would be super problematic because you would immediately create sort of inherent conflict with your other advertising customers. In less developed markets where the industry that you're serving is less structured and one could argue not as professional or not as large, and you as the portal are sitting on lots of very interesting data and very insightful data, then it makes sense to move further up the value chain. I know Zameen went from advertising, residential, new homes, to then going, wait, we've got these insights, we'll become a consultant to the architects of the new homes guys, to then saying, wait a second, we'll become a, almost like an architectural consulting firm where we would help redesign them. Why are you putting this, development with 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartments in an area where we need to have, studios and 1-bedrooms because it's a better fit? You should redesign it. And by the way, we've got a team here that can redesign it for you. And then they went further again and said, wait a second, we can do financing. Oh, well, why don't we become a developer? Because they're basically looking at the value chain and saying, where is profit being made? And clearly in the markets, a lot of profits being made in the development side. So why not become a developer? And in China, we know there's been an oversupply and there's been a lot of talk about market correction. So maybe they're land banking as well. They're just saying, you know what, we're just going to put this land, we're going to hold on to it. We know the markets will come back over time. We're going to be sitting on a $95 million Shanghai plot that will become a $200 million Shanghai plot, and we can do the development on it and we will then benefit.
Right. To your point there, saying that this, they've probably identified this as being, a profitable endeavor, right? Why else would they do it?
Yeah.
As somebody who sifts through the financial filings of these companies, I am very interested to see when they do report on this, if it is profitable, if it ends up being profitable. And for a long time now, I've been very much anticipating the parent company of Zameen in Pakistan, which is Dubizzle Group, based in the UAE. They've been saying for a while that they're going to go public. I have been looking forward to the numbers from that particular part of their business for a while now, because I'm fascinated to see if it's actually really profitable, a really worthwhile endeavor. It's also, a much more, let's just say, interesting and it diversifies quite a bit what a real estate portal does and is, and how people in that market think of that brand.
Yes.
This
Yeah.
kind of
However, let's chat about that, because Pakistan is interesting. Pakistan is not your average place, right? They've had a coup. They've had a lot of internal changes. I spoke recently with Imran Ali Khan, who's the CEO of Dubizzle Group, a couple of weeks ago. Actually, no, it was last week, I think it was. And we were having a chat, and he said, look, the big problem with Pakistan at the moment is that, first of all, there used to be a lot of money coming into the country from the diaspora of all the Pakistanis living overseas and returning money home. That's dried up. Secondly, within Pakistan itself, they've put a 20% tax on home sales. So you sell your home, it's not 100,000, it's 120,000. So what immediately happens is people don't sell their homes. So there's a lot of exogenous or non-business related issues that have truly impacted that business. And his view was, it's going to take a few years for this for the system to change and to come back to be more of a free market type system and that's when Zameen will come back as it's not going to disappear. It's just sort of not as prominent as it was. And then the last thing is you can't get money out of the country. So Zameen makes profit, but you can't then pay a dividend to an external company. And Divisal Group is in Dubai. So a lot of structural issues that are out of their control. And so, they're going to. My guess is they're going to get on and do an IPO, and Zameen will not contribute a lot of value to that IPO in terms of inherent value, but it'll be an upside option that will be sitting there.
Okay. I think probably eventually when we see numbers from both of those businesses, there's an interesting article there. We'll move on though. Any other notable stories this week, Harvey? Anything that you've read or written about that you want to talk about?
Yeah, there's a couple that spring to mind. The first one is the founder who's sued his own investors. That one's quite interesting. So Nestaway in India, it's a rental marketplace, I believe. One of the co-founders has actually entered a police complaint, which is basically the equivalent of handing in a lawsuit to a lawyer, against investors, including Goldman Sachs, to say that his signature has been forged or in some way forcibly used, whereby Nestaway got acquired for 95% less than it should have been, basically. Very interesting story. Details are quite thin right now. I've not seen any follow-up. Doing my news rounds every day, but that will be a very interesting one to follow to see whether there's any meat on the bone, shall we say. Simon, it looks like you may have something to say on that one.
No, I have a comment. I don't have any knowledge.
Go on, tell us your comment then.
Normal. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Okay. So clearly there's a whole bunch of stuff that's happened there, and clearly the stuff will have happened on both sides. And normally in these things, what's tend to happen is that the founder or the day-to-day operations has done something that the shareholders and board didn't like. Maybe they didn't deliver on their business plan. Maybe they weren't happy with the direction of the company. Who knows? Okay. And so maybe what's happened is those shareholders got together and decided to sell the company. They sold it. The guy wasn't happy. He's claiming, I don't know. He said, she said, this happened, that happened. Who knows? I'm not there. I'm not part of it. But clearly where there's smoke, there's fire, and clearly something has happened. So I think this goes in the category of a bit of a daytime soap opera, and keep an eye on it. But, it's EastEnders.
Yeah, absolutely. Another one that I'd like to mention is that FangDD, Chinese portal, became compliant again at the end of last year on NASDAQ, but not for very long. And NASDAQ has come back and given this Chinese portal another warning that it needs to regain compliance, whereby its shares remain a minimum value of $1, I think it is, to stay listed. This is a business that has struggled for quite a few years now. The share price is barely ticking over above $1, usually less than $1. It's been given 6 months to regain compliance, so it would be interesting to see whether that business can survive its public listing status. Not much to say on that one, but there is one that I do want to say a little bit on, which is pre-market and off-market listings. Interesting topic of conversation, not a niche that we talk about very much, but I've seen 3, 4, maybe even 5 stories in the past 2 or 3 months where portals are now starting to look a bit more closely at the property that isn't on the market, which, in any given country at any given time is probably going to be about 95% of the houses. So I think I'm going to write a story on that. I've already reached out to a couple of friendly people. So thank you for those people who have already responded to my questions. I think there's something in the pre-market and off-market niche that we should definitely dive into in the next couple of months or so.
Harvey, just to comment on that. So if we think about what's happening here, either A, there's a property that's not for sale and someone wants to buy the house for whatever reason, okay? And they're providing a facility that allows me to make an unsolicited bid to buy, I don't know, I'm in an apartment here. Someone says, I want to buy this apartment. Would you take, $10 for it, whatever, okay? That's one mechanism that they're clearly doing. The people are doing. Makes sense, and it's no different. I sold my house in Melbourne through that mechanism. I had a real estate agent come and literally knock on my door and said, hey, Simon, someone's interested in buying this property. Are you interested in selling? I knew the guy. And I said, well, not really, but if it's a silly price, I'll do it. And they came, we negotiated a silly price. Okay. And I was very happy with it. So that's one example. The other example is where people are going, I want to sell my house, but I don't want to advertise it widely, which I don't really get as a concept, because if you want to sell your house, you want to advertise it widely to get the best price. Okay. So there will be some which fit into that category. Normally it's at the super top end where they don't want a whole bunch of tire kickers wasting time on a $30 million house, but that's not a big chunk of the market. Okay. It's a small micro market. Or people want to sort of test the market. I wonder what the potential, but I don't want to talk to 3 real estate agents, because once I put it out there that I'm interested in maybe selling my house, then I become the prettiest girl at the dance, right? Everyone's going to be like, oh my God, I want to talk to you. Here's an offer, I can sell your house. And then they start to give you ridiculous numbers just to get your business and so on. So I can understand why they're trying to do it, but I can't see it becoming the main business for any of these portals. It's sort of a ancillary business where you're basically getting a combination of supply and demand, right? And you're trying to meet the two and try to make some additional revenue in that process. Yeah, interesting, but not going to change the world, in my view. Our world, that is.
Okay. Lastly, on our roundup this week, it's January. Not an awful lot of news tends to happen in January. So we've been writing opinion pieces, or I've been writing an opinion piece. You two may have read it, or I don't know. Hopefully you have read it, because I asked you to read it. About real estate.
I read it.
For those listening, Simon just raised his eyebrow. The opinion piece was entitled, Will Real Estate AI Search Be Another Victim of Homepage Homogenization? I won't go into too much detail about what the article says. You can all go and read it. I just basically wanted to get 2 questions. I want to get 2 answers from you guys. Have you used many AI searches on real estate portals, and what was the experience like? We'll go to Harvey. Have you been using many AI searches? You're allowed to say no, by the way.
I've done a bit of playing around, but I can't say I'm by any means an expert on it. If I see a name and I'll play around with maybe my local neighborhood, my hometown, see what comes up if I mention my old secondary school, for example, on an AI search. Beyond that, I'm still pretty much a rookie.
Simon, you've spoken about AI search on real estate portals, so I hope you've used it before.
I've used it, but not to buy a house, because I'm not looking to buy a house at the moment, right? So one has to think about it through a couple of lenses. First of all, none of us are going to be the best testers of these things. Very happy to look at it, and I have looked at. I've played with a bunch of them. They're great, right? I type in a whole bunch of random thoughts about what I'm wanting to do, and it returns things that are, probably better results in the process. So that makes sense.
Okay, so that's interesting. So you're confident that the results would be better?
Yeah, the results are better because they're more accurate, tailored, especially when I want something like I want a window without another house in front of me.
Okay. The reason I ask is because I've spent the last 2 days designing an experiment to see if they are better. Oh, sorry, go on. We'll find out. Is there?
Yeah, no. I want to hear what your experiment says. Now, my view is that that we're at the very early stage of getting it right. And fielded-based search, which has been around for 20, 25 years, longer, I guess, is very mature and very well, refined. And honestly hasn't changed much in a very long time. I think they'll get better with the AI search, but I'm not. So it's good to play with, but I'm coming up from someone who's spent 25 years in this industry. But I'm not convinced that your average person will use it as much. However, interesting trend that I've noticed. I've been looking. We've got with my Fusion 4 Ventures hat on, the business that I run with some colleagues of mine, and we're helping half a dozen different companies at the moment to scale their business and then sell it. And one of the things we've been doing is looking at, well, where does your traffic come from, right? Is it, still all Google search, whatever? And what is interesting is ChatGPT, Perplexity, and other AI interactive applications are starting to become interesting lead sources. Not material. They haven't replaced Google search yet, but a year ago they didn't exist. Now they're maybe 1 or 2% of their searches. What they're doing though is they become the interface between the consumer who's saying, I'm looking for a house for sale and in this area, and it's going via Perplexity or via ChatGPT and looking at the potential houses. So it may not be by the embedded freeform search, AI-driven search on the portal itself, but it may be coming from one of these other sources. No different to when with Google, when I was typing homes for sale in Salamanca, Madrid, okay, where I'm at the moment, homes for sale, and it was then basically saying, here's Idealista's Salamanca page, or here's Fotocasas Salamanca page, right?
Okay,
so
that's interesting.
So it's a different way of thinking.
Yeah. So by that logic, if I'm a real estate portal, I potentially want to, if let's say I've got 50 structured data fields for every listing. By that logic, I actually want to hide a lot of those fields from search engines, because engines like ChatGPT or Perplexity will end up, with the means to actually identify when certain listings have, let's say, south-facing gardens, right? And that will, you end up depending on this third party, Perplexity or ChatGPT or whatever. That's interesting. The other question that I wanted to ask you guys is, and I know the answer because I spent a day doing the work. How many portals around the world do you think have AI search on their homepage, web homepage, not app, as of last week? So there are 900 real estate portals on my spreadsheet. What percentage do you think had some kind of AI search? Harvey?
Out of 900?
900.
I would honestly be surprised if it was more than 1%. I'm gonna guess 9 out of 900.
Simon?
On the home page.
On the homepage.
So when I land on the site.
This is the issue, yeah.
Okay. So wait, can it be selectable? You know how they have the default search and there's like a button that says change the search?
No.
I'm saying default.
So, okay, well, I'll let you give me two numbers then.
As the default search, 0. None. My guess is none, right? Or maybe,
there's one that has...
maybe Jitty in the UK.
Okay, there's two. There's two that have it as the default.
Right. I think Jitty does because that's what it promotes itself at, and there's got to be one
other in the US. Fly Homes is the only other one that has it as the default.
Okay. And then as something I can swap between,
yeah.
I think Scout 24 does. I think there's a few out there who do. So my guess is 20, 30, maybe. I think the guys in Dubai do. You can switch between it. I don't know.
It's got to be less than that. It's got to be less than 20.
Harvey was spot on with 9.
You're joking me.
20%.
Oh, that's rigged.
I'll take that.
But this interesting because there are a few different ways of doing it. So like you said, Simon, the guys in Beike in the UAE, they have this kind of chat GPT-ish interface, which, if I'm being honest, doesn't actually work very well when you say, show me all the homes that have X, Y, and Z. It takes ages. It does do it, but it takes ages. That's more for like, I don't know, tell me about property price trends in this area, or tell me about this listing. There's a few that hide it away quite well. There's a few that put it on the app, but as for it being on the homepage somewhere, it's 6. 6 is the number as of last week out of 900. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what inspired me to write that article, which is basically another one of my like bar humbug opinion articles about the state of the industry.
But wait, you went through 900.
Okay, no, I didn't go through 900. Probably went through about 150, but then I went, I feel just like, oh, Tanzania. Do you know what? Sorry, Tanzania. I don't think you've got AI search.
Statistical sampling.
Certain ways of filtering it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, the bottom line is we're not talking about 100. We're not talking about 500. We're not talking about 50%. We're not talking about 10%. We're talking about 1%. Now the question around reason for that is that I wonder if that's because it's the companies can't do it. They've tried and they're stuffed around and the results are returning are just not good. Maybe it's because they've worked out if they do that, then their advertising model gets screwed up, right? And they don't want to play around with their premium ads and so on. Okay, maybe. Or 3, they've just worked out that the consumers actually don't care.
This is the subject of what my presentation is going to be in Bangkok for everybody, and also some other deeper content which I'm planning for the future as well. Basically, I read a book about flying cars and why we don't have flying cars. It was basically this scientist, getting angry about the state of innovation in the world and what holds back innovation, and it got me thinking about AI search.
Have you seen drivers on a road that's flat in 2 dimensions? Imagine working in 3 dimensions.
Right. Well, this is one of the considerations in the book. It's a very interesting book, and it got me thinking about the state of innovation in our particular industry. And I think AI search might be a kind of a canary in the coal mine, because we've all been told, well, those of us who attend conferences have all been told that AI search is the future, and I'm not necessarily quite sure it is. All right, fellas, I don't think I have anything else on the docket for today, unless there's something that you guys want to discuss. We'll leave it there, and we'll ask everyone to join us for next week's Roundup. And like I said at the beginning of the show, we've got plenty of very interesting guests coming up for one-off kind of interview episodes of the PPW Pod. It would be remiss of me not to say at the end, if you've enjoyed this, like it wherever you're listening, share it, tell other people in the industry. We love doing it. We love putting it out for free, and we hope it's interesting and useful.
Yep. Fantastic. Thank you, gentlemen. Big thanks to our sponsors, PropTech, for helping us out. And I'm looking forward to a chat next week. Just so everyone knows, we're going to be doing our weekly roundup. So Thursday, Fridays, sort of around that time, you should receive in your feed the 3 of us, at least the 3, maybe 2 of us, chatting around what is happening in the industry, whether it is articles or news or so on that's come up, or even just as we talked about there about AI-driven search. And then hopefully every week or every couple of weeks, we're going to have an interview as well. We'll do we'll release on like a Tuesday. We've got Tanuj Shori coming up, for example, from Square Yards. We had some great speakers last year, and we're just lighting them up. And if you're out there listening and you've got a great story, reach out to us. Send Ed or Harvey an email and say, hey, look, I'm interested in coming on the podcast to chat about X, Y, or Z. And you never know. We might get you on the podcast for half hour, an hour, and have a really good deep dive into something super interesting. So thank you very much.